order the Dartmouth Finance Committee. This meeting is in person and is being recorded. Everybody's information. Why don't we stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, tonight we're going to, Cody, do you have to leave? Do you want to give your update and then go?
What? No, I don't have to leave.
You just, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
no, I'll be here.
Okay, so then we'll get you.
You made me nervous. I thought I was missing something later on.
I just wouldn't expect that you'll be coming to all of them, right? I mean,
I'll be
maybe.
here for majority of these.
Yeah, okay.
Unless I have a conflict, I'll be here.
So we're going to
Thank you.
start with the town meeting warrant, and as we were saying, we have 4 people, so we can't take any votes, but we can certainly discuss and get any questions that you might have answered.
So,
Tracy?
yes. This is a draft warrant we have in front of you. I sent that out today. If we can go through them. Obviously, as Terry said, we can't take a vote, but if someone does come in and we meet quorum, then we can re-vote on them, I guess, if that person does come in. Or if the committee wants to wait till next week to have more people here, we can
I
do
don't
that
think we
too.
have a choice.
Also, Buddy Baker-Smith will be here next week to go over his warrant article.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
I will not be at next week's meeting because I will
Okay.
be over at the ZBA. So I'll be here for a couple minutes, then I have to shoot over
Okay.
there.
Okay.
We
So
could
the
put your
first,
updates on.
What's that?
Sorry, we could put your updates on first, maybe next week if you
Yeah,
want
or
to
if
be
there's
up for.
questions particular to the warrant
Okay,
that are beyond the financial scope, or just let us know.
perfect.
Gary, before I forget,
Yes.
can you put on the next agenda a discussion about where the meeting will be held, whether we stay here or move
Yes,
into the
yeah.
other room?
yeah,
But I want to make sure, is Janine going to be here? No, she's going to be
no,
missing.
she's off for 2 weeks.
So let's do it when Janine's here. So that
Okay,
she can-
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we can go through the articles that are on the warrant here. So Article 1 is a CPC article. This is for water and moisture mitigation project at the Aiken House. And it's a request for $22,800. Again, Buddy will be here next week to discuss it a little bit further.
There was some questions about the Aiken House and the bid and all that. Has that been straightened out, more or less? No? Okay.
Well, I'm not, if there's specifics, I mean, I'm not sure what the exact, as far as CPC, I think there's no current lease. The lease had expired
Okay.
over a year ago. We are out to bid for the lease of the building. Proposals are due, I think sometime next week.
So they're going forward with it? Because I think that
We have to.
the issue was,
I think
The
there's
Yeah.
an opinion out there by an outside counsel that we do not.
right,
30B requires that anything,
Okay.
assessed value
Okay.
over a certain threshold, we have to go out to
Okay.
lease. We can't just hand out leases.
but you're not bound necessarily by the lowest bid. You're bound by the lowest bid and other factors.
Most qualified,
Yeah,
yeah,
most
the most qualified
Okay.
Response is the way we
Alright.
do it, but.
I just
but,
knew
Yeah,
that.
assessed
We're not-
value
yeah.
on the property is $400,000 roughly, because they consider not just the building, the value of the land itself too. So we are bound to go out
Okay.
to lease for a bid.
So Buddy will give us more information on that.
Yes. So on Article 2, this is a standard article that we usually put into the warrant. This is to add $250,000 to our stabilization account, the normal stabilization account. And the current balance prior to this contribution is 13.1 million. So we would be at close to 13.4, 13.5 million if we were to add that. These are the current balances on those accounts.
Anybody have any questions on that? I wonder.
Can we get the trends on how much we've been appropriating a year to that?
Yes, yeah. It's roughly, for a while, we were at $1 million every year, about 3-4 years ago. And then because we've already met the contribution level, based on the revenues that we put into the budget, we've ratcheted that down a lot. And the reason why we continue to do a minimal contribution is for the rating agencies, to make sure that they see that we'll continue to contribute to the stabilization account and that we haven't just stopped.
Yeah. No, I just want to see
Yeah,
those
we can-
trends,
we
how
can.
much we've been contributing each year. We decrease, but are we gonna start,
Yeah.
gradually increasing?
Yeah.
I don't know, I just wanna see what the trends are. to
Part
see.
of it you'll
Yep.
see is 4 years ago, Gary,
Yeah,
maybe
about
5,
4 years.
we changed our financial policy. So we historically had a policy that was a 7.5%.
Yes.
We had 7.5% of our general fund operating revenues in the stabilization
Right.
fund. We upped that to 10. So that's why I think you'll see in the trend about $1 million a year. We're at 10 now. So we just want to show a contribution, but we can put together the trend there.
So the
Yeah,
policy
so
is
just to see what the trends are and what our goal is going forward, is it to maintain a certain amount, or is it,
We want to
somewhat increase
So
every
technically
year
our-
to keep
our-
up with,
our financial
what,
policy is
inflation,
still
or,
10%. But, so we're in line with our financial policy, which is 10% right now, and we add a small amount basically just for the bond rating, at this point.
Right.
So we're showing a contribution. But our financial policy hasn't changed with the 10%.
Yeah, I can put that together. That shouldn't be,
So what's the amount, Gary?
250,000.
Oh, same as last year, okay.
Yeah, we've been at that level for a while now.
Okay,
So we're up at about 13%, right, of our budget. Budget is what, 108?
Yeah,
So
yeah, we're about,
Just shy of 13%.
Yeah.
So at what point do we stop? Putting money-
You can, but it can affect your bond rating.
Yeah.
Right, so they want to see a continued contribution from the community beyond interest and beyond kind of the market. They like to see a contribution from the community from their, free cash or whatever it may be.
yeah, if
So-
we stop, the first question will be, why have you stopped contributing to the stabilization fund?
It's not an acceptable answer to say we're 3% above our 10% policy?
Well, we could, but at a certain point in time, they're gonna say, why? And if we ratchet that up, if the budget obviously keeps growing, at a 3.5%, 4% increase every year. So eventually, we'll either have to continue it or now catch up to that point. So we make the minimal contribution, just so that, we're not spending $1 million on stabilization every year. And then some of that, and then obviously, this is coming out of free cash, retained earnings. The rest of that goes back into the capital, back for expenditures that are used for capital items. So, in the last 3 years, if we've done, if we were doing $1 million, we're talking, we kept 600, we haven't put $1.2 million into stabilization over the last 3 years. We've used that for capital items, or other items, non-operational in the budget. So, but we'll look at the trend, to see what we've put in. I know that, it was $1 million for a long time.
To answer your question, could we say that? Yes. However, we're in a spot with our free cash where we're able to provide a contribution, so we don't feel like it's worth the risk with the bond rating agency. That's really what it comes down to.
any other questions? I thought you might have a couple questions about that. Any other, no?
Okay with that one, Terry?
Article 3.
Yep. Article 3 is, so as you know, the town is right now going through a reclass, and we have a stabilization, it's a stabilization account for collective bargaining, non-union, and union agreements. So we put money aside in that account. I believe we have $399,000 there, around $400,000. This would complement that to pretty much pay for that reclass, whatever that comes out to be. If in fact we see that we've put too much in this article, that can always be rescinded, which then falls out to free cash and can be spent in other spots of the budget later on down the
So we're
road.
looking at all of the changes that might happen.
Potentially might happen.
You've estimated that
Yes.
conservatively.
Yes.
That this is what it will be.
Yes.
And we do not anticipate this over a year. This is not a
Right.
one-year change. We do not anticipate it costing us $1 million in
Right.
changes in
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah.
That's not at
We
all.
anticipated that question.
When we
Cody.
look at this, we say, okay, again, we're in a pretty good financial spot with free cash, historic level of free cash. This is a stabilization fund, so it's a savings account essentially. So why not put it aside? And the thought being, if it comes back that we are significantly underpaying our employees, I don't know, I don't think it's gonna come back with that, but if it were, we are in a position where we could ease reliance into the operating budget rather than have to go to the operating budget right away in year 1. Because the reality is if we do have to, make some large increases, it's not happening in year 1. We're gonna have to implement different scales over a 3-year period potentially. and we can utilize this to help offset that in the operating budget.
Yeah, it would carry us over more than one, potentially more than one fiscal year, I guess that's what
Okay.
we're trying to say.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so how wide is the reclassification? How many unions? And approximately how many employees are we talking about?
A couple hundred employees.
Around three, yeah.
Three.
400 employees, not including the schools. Includes all the other bargaining units, steel workers, the laborers.
So every
Police
other
Brotherhood.
department in the town, except for schools?
Correct.
is
Participating in the
The
reclass.
stabilization fund is for? Yeah, okay.
How many stabilization funds do we have?
We have the.
What are the balances of
We have
them
the
all?
normal, we have the
Wanna pull up
regular.
that sheet?
Oh,
Yeah, we have the regular stabilization fund. So here we go, we have so one is not on here. We have the stabilization fund, we have the kindergarten fund, streetlights. DCTV has their own collective bargaining, which is what I just spoke about, the 400,000, and then OPEB. And then the other one here is the employee that we just mentioned.
You have that one on there, collective bargaining. The other one is the long-range
Long-range capital.
It's not on there.
Which we have 500,000 in that account. And we had $1 million, we used 500,000 for remember last year, we used it for the school replacement of the fire alarms. So the committee thought that it'd be appropriate to put the 500,000 back in that account going forward, and you'll see that on one of the warrant articles. Which is actually the next one.
Any other questions?
No.
I'm not taking motions on these because we're really not in a position to vote. Is that okay with everybody?
You're not taking what?
Absolutely.
What was that?
We're not in a position to vote.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one is the $500,000 back into the long-term capital stabilization fund, which was designed, I think a couple of years ago now, on this, was designed to just do that, to take care of any long-term I guess the gap between a long-term project and a shorter-term projects. We talk about the school roof, for instance, which we're looking at for MSBA, through MSBA, could be designed for something like that. Anything that the capital committee would see fit to spend out of. So again, they spent the 500,000 last year. We're looking to replenish that, and this would put the account back to $1 million. All coming from free cash.
The meeting for the capital improvement committee is next Tuesday, so we should have it for the
At 8
next
o'clock.
meeting. Yep.
So the next article is the capital article that has not been voted on yet. We're working on that next Tuesday, as Terry mentioned.
You'll notice 5 and 6,
Yeah.
the language is not in there yet. However, on the cover sheet, there will be Articles 5 and 6. Do you want to talk about those articles, Gary? Rough, just high level.
Yeah. So,
Is charter changes?
They're not, we need to, one of the things as we've looked at the prior fiscal year operations that was concerned to Gary and I was some of our DPW operations. In particular, our water enterprise fund, we looked in the amount of money that they spent last year compared to budget. They ran a deficit, essentially, right? So an enterprise fund is not supposed to run deficits. None of us are supposed to run deficits, but an enterprise fund is supposed to be self-sufficient. Their revenues are supposed to cover their cost and some to basically create retained earnings as savings account. That was not the case for water in fiscal '25. They ran a deficit of $140,000 approximately. So with that, we actually need to make an appropriation from their retained earnings to cover the prior year deficit. So we're working on the language because we have not had to deal with this before. So we're trying to get some assistance from DOR on what that language should look like. And then there also will be another article for solid waste, although solid waste was only about $4,000.
yeah.
Oh, it's not bad.
So is there a solution to this? So
We
that won't
are,
happen again?
Yes, we are internally meeting. We are keeping a good eye on these things so we know ahead of time. And
Yeah.
that, it could result in spending freezes, and we need to look at rates over there
Right.
more holistically. I mean, I think if you look at retained earnings, we're not necessarily concerned with solid waste. Solid waste was more of we just didn't accurately budget, and they ran a deficit, but they have the money. That's not the concern. The concern really is with our water enterprise fund. For several years now, we have not been covering the costs, right? We've had to basically, our retained earnings have slowly been going down, and we haven't been building retained earnings. So, yeah, do you have that?
So
It's okay if
Cody,
you
in the
don't.
past, have they taken from retained earnings to cover these deficits?
We have not, but basically, we've been able to cover our operating costs. However, we've not built up retained earnings over the years. So as we've had to dip into retained earnings for capital, for the enterprise funds, usually you build up over the
Right.
years.
Right.
That's not the case here. And so actually, after this deficit appropriation, water enterprise retained earnings is only gonna be around $50,000. It was 2 million about 5 years ago.
So are you saying the deficit is because there's no money in retained earnings? Is that?
The deficit is because we have operationally, our revenues are not covering our costs. That's basically what it
So I
comes down
guess
to.
my question is there a check and balance so that somebody in the department can't overspend because?
There is now.
Okay, all right, good.
We are monitoring it on
You know what I'm saying? That-
bi-weekly
yeah.
basis at this point.
Yeah.
To make sure that they're on track with, what they should be spending,
Yeah.
where we are in the year. And if we get to a point where we're outpacing the budget, we will implement, hiring freezes, spending freezes with the enterprise fund. But that we really got to look at the rates over there, and we need to look at operations. We're buying a lot of water from New Bedford. We are planning to sit down with New Bedford to see if we can negotiate a rate that may be more advantageous to us. We'll see what happens there, but we are looking at all of our options.
Yeah, and it mainly, like Cody said, it's because, predominantly because of the water that's been purchased. And, we increase rates every year at July 1st. And we're very cognizant of how we raise those rates, and these funds, water, sewer, trash, are all based on rates, all the user fees that are accumulated. So the budget, there wasn't enough, pretty much, budgeted in revenues to cover the expenses that they had seeked to spend on those line items, especially water. So you can see this trend here. This is a trend of the last 5-6 years of where the retained earnings have gone. For the top is the free cash. So you see we've increased every year. From fiscal '23, we had a little dip in '24, but '25 was 6.6 million. Now '26 is 8.1 million. And then you look at water, the next line, how it's dipped. And most of that is because we were dipping into there for the purchase of New Bedford Water and Sewer. And unfortunately, we can't use general fund money to supplement an enterprise fund. The DOR does not allow that because they're self-sufficient. They have to be based on the rates that
And
they,
in a way, it's fortunate. I was just thinking there are other municipalities that have ended up in a bad situation by the spring, and it was kind of a surprise to people, so. I had asked Gary if he could do quarterly reports for us on Munis, and he said that he would be able to do that. So at some point, we'll be able to look at those on the budget.
What we're looking at right now, that's year-end free cash or retained
Fiscal year-end,
earnings,
yep.
right? What's the cumulative that's in the water enterprise fund? Is it,
right there, 242, 892.
that is
That carries
cumulative.
over, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the way it works, when you certify, whatever you don't use just gets carried over in the next certification.
Yeah.
So if we only use 3 million this year, and then at the end of next fiscal year, that just goes in.
We start off with the ending balance, basically.
so the FY '26 column is
That is
what
what
it
it
is
is.
right now?
Yep,
Yeah,
that
that's
is
what we're
Still
certifying.
shocking for the water enterprise fund from 6 years.
Right.
Yeah, it's depleted. So,
Concern.
Didn't DPW just recently do like a rate study?
They did, but one of the things that they were trying to be cognizant of is not to have spikes, right? So rather than 20% increase in 1 year, but they're trying to phase it out over multiple years. However, you're seeing
it's
that
not working.
Yeah.
maybe something we need to reevaluate.
And if you remember back, and Nate, I don't think you maybe were involved as much, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was 0% rate increases. So over
For a
multiple
very
years.
long time, yeah.
Over multiple years, so we built no balance in those 2-3 years. And if we may have built balances back then, $200,000 a year, we would have a lot more in the enterprise fund.
Right.
So, I have a couple questions. Are we using more water?
No, we're using more New Bedford water. We have multiple wells that are down right
Second-
now.
second
We're in the
question.
process of getting them online.
Online,
But in some of this really, we need to build contingencies in our budgets, of course. But some of this is, we have one of our well fields that was struck by lightning. We're in the
Okay.
process of getting it back up. It was struck by lightning again.
So why do you
I
think
mean,
it
really,
keeps,
so
can we prevent it from getting
that's
struck by
right,
lightning
twice,
by putting a lightning pole or
It's
it's
something?
not
I
as
mean, I'm
simple as
just,
that. I mean, there's
Yeah,
mitigation
I know,
measures
I-
that they're looking at and.
Yeah,
we
what's the
enforce
You want it at
solution?
your house?
You know, we also have some, you know, we always have to test and we've had to
Mm-hmm.
take some wells off to make sure we're providing, you know, high-quality water.
Yeah.
Those are things we're
That's
always looking
fair.
at, so
So what do we need to do to make Dartmouth more sustainable with our water moving forward?
Oh, that's gonna
We-
take a
you know,
couple
that-
meetings, I
that's-
think.
I think if someone had the simple answer to that, that we wouldn't be in this situation. However, you know, it's something we recognize as a concern.
Sometimes I
and
say
we're
these
looking at
things,
it.
Yeah,
You
for the
know,
people who are
We need to
listening.
do a holistic evaluation of the operation down there.
Has it been done
and-
yet?
I mean, they have to an extent, but I
Okay.
think we obviously need to dig in a little bit deeper, given this concern. I mean, we
Yeah.
had a meeting down at DPW for several hours on Friday, and this was one of the topics that we discussed,
Okay.
and the leadership team is aware that this is something, it needs to be addressed now, because, you know, what you're seeing
Absolutely. This
is
is not
after this
sustainable.
appropriation, there's not a lot left in retained earnings.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if we run at a we can't run at a deficit again this year, right? This year, last year, not that you want to do it, but we've had retained earnings where if we did run at a deficit, okay, like we're doing now, we're going to dip into it to cover that. We're not going to have that at our pleasure in fiscal '26 to the extent that may be necessary.
Now, we have to look at this on a monthly basis to see where it's trending, to make sure that, you know, the first quarter, we're only at 25% of the budget. We're not at 35% of the budget. And if we see that, then there has to be adjustments made. They have to jigger it, whether it means, you know, a mid-year rate increase or it means, you know, a freeze on some of the expenses. That really has to take place because we can't have negative, even deficits in these accounts.
I'm not sure that the users are aware that the wells are down.
I was so,
And that, and
my next
that,
question.
they, I mean, that, like, the highway department sent out a notice about the rate increase there. And they did send out a notice about rate increases for users, but I don't think a lot of explanation was given, so I don't think people understand, first of all, the cost of New Bedford water is so expensive. They're looking into alternatives, but there's nothing on the floor right now, so.
so that was gonna be what I was gonna ask next was how can we get the community to be more aware of our issue with water and,
So, you know, it's twofold, because the New Bedford, you know, us purchasing the water from New Bedford is the current issue, right, of why we're bleeding in the Water Enterprise Fund. However, once our wells are back online and our reliance is a little bit less on the water, we don't want to portray that our rates would be able to go down or even sustain without increases, because we need to, these rate increases are necessary for us to just run our operation without buying the water from New Bedford.
Right.
And if you look at, right, retained earnings, we have to use that for capital. Right now, there's not much in there for capital. We're looking at, what's the tank we're looking at that needs to be painted and we have one of our water tanks that,
It's
you know.
in the millions.
It's in the millions. It needs to be, you know, basically repainted and so on and so forth.
So we use those retained earnings to do just that, to supplement for our capital items. So it is twofold,
So
as
there's-
Cody said.
there's never, is there water bans on ever? I'm on wells, so this doesn't
Yeah,
really
we have water
pertain to
bans
me so
sometimes during
much.
droughts, but, so the usage itself is not necessarily the
It's
issue,
not,
right?
okay.
It's the fact that right now we have several
can't
wells and
produce-
well
we can't
fields
produce.
down.
Fair,
And we're fortunate enough that we're able to interconnect with New Bedford.
Okay.
Historically, we've always used New Bedford water.
okay,
I think the trend has been around 20% of our water actually has
Yeah.
come from New Bedford.
Okay.
And last year, almost 50% of our water came from New Bedford.
wow,
So if we transfer the
So-
$140,000 from retained earnings to cover the deficit, then that leaves $100,000 left in that
Roughly,
account.
yeah, roughly 100.
Yeah, you know, and everything else that's increased, I mean, the cost of chemicals have increased when they treat the water, everything, so,
Yep.
you know, it's really not just one, we can pinpoint one thing, there's multiple items that we have to
Right.
look at, so, but we're looking at that now on a monthly basis. I actually just ran some reports today, it looks like it's trending fairly, as far as their budget is concerned in the first quarter of fiscal '26, but we have to keep a closer eye on this.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
No.
That was good discussion, though, because it's important that
think
we
so.
understand these things when people ask us.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
anticipate a lot of questions on those at town meeting, rightfully so.
Yeah.
So we, Tim Barber will be present and, hopefully answer some of those operational questions.
And again, we're not asking questions to be, rude or stepping
Of
out of
course
line,
not.
and we're
No,
asking
no.
because,
You need to understand.
yes, well, and some people watch, the finance committee meetings, and we try to ask very thoughtful questions that people might have, so.
Yep.
Yeah, and in the big picture, I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar operation just on the water side. I mean, $100,000 transfer is really not, it's a very small percent of the
Yeah.
budget, but we don't want this to get out of control. We want to make sure that we're addressing it proactively in fiscal '26, so that if we need to make changes within the fiscal year, we do it, so that there's not an issue in '27. That's the reason why we need to take a closer look.
Yeah, I would say the $140,000 transfer this year is, in consideration of the total size of the budget, is not a big deal, but looking at where we were in 2020.
Right.
$2 million retained earnings dropping down to 100,000, that is concerning.
Yeah, yep,
Yep.
That's a big deal.
yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay,
Okay, so Article 8, Terry, is the feasibility study for the $250,000 for MSBA to begin the roof
yep,
for the high school, feasibility for the roof. This goes to town meeting for approval, and then they begin the process with MSBA. So this asks for the $250,000 again out of retained earnings.
and Jim
Excuse me,
Kiley
free
did a
cash.
great
He
explanation
did.
last night at the long-term planning.
Oh, he
did?
Yep, he was talking about the several projects, but he explained the process here, that it involves first a declaration of interest, and we don't even know if MSBA will agree to this until the end of October, and then if they don't, the roof still needs to be done, so they're gonna have to figure out how that will work. This is just, the MSBA will require a feasibility study if they approve it, so.
Yep, so this is mandatory if we want to, we hope to get a grant, and we are not even it's not even an option without it, so, yeah.
We're being proactive here.
Absolutely.
Typically, you appropriate the funds after you get the MSBA kind of approval, but Gary and I sat down and looked at it. We don't want to have to wait till June, right, if MSBA gives us that approval. So this is basically like a contingent approval. And we'd
Yeah.
resubmit to MSBA anyways if they, for some reason, do not approve it. So
Yeah.
at least we have it there and can.
Yeah, and it would stay out there, we wouldn't have to.
Right, and it's my understanding if they don't need it, it goes back into the bud, is that right?
It's
Into the-
rescinded, we could rescind the article.
We
and that goes
rescind
free
it,
cash.
right. So, yeah, so it's a risk-free. Yeah.
The estimate for the roof
What-
in 2022 is $6 million.
What is the end product we get for $250,000?
The roof replace, oh,
They provide a full comprehensive study that looks at basically alternatives. They put forward a plan, timeline, so on and so forth. I mean, I don't have a sample of it, but it's
Alternatives for,
roofing alternatives. So right now, our goal would be to go for, I think, it's a PVC roof, right? Which is like a 30, 35-year roof. But they would look at alternatives. Do you go with another rubber roof, right, which is 15 years? Try to identify exactly the scope of work that would be needed, because it's the roof, but it also includes we have a lot of like rot in the area up there.
Drainage
There's a lot
issues,
of
yeah.
drainage issues behind the stone, the brick in the walls. There's a lot, so they're gonna have to take some of that down. That's all included in that roof repair. So they'll be able to identify the exact scope of what would need to get done for the actual project.
It's required.
Well, people have asked,
it just seems
like a lot of money.
crazy amount of
I
money.
know. You're like, can't you
For
replace the
someone
roof
to
for
walk in and
that?
say, yeah, you got a leaking roof and you need to
Jim?
replace it. Oh, and best practice is PVC today.
No,
I'm
Jim,
gonna pay
it's definitely-
$250,000 for that?
No, it's definitely more
I just-
comprehensive than
Yeah.
that.
It is.
I'm not super familiar with MSBA projects. Jim Kiley can certainly provide more information on it. However, we have no option we cannot skip this.
Yeah.
If we want MSBA reimbursement.
And it's a $6 million roof at 50%
just-
reimbursement, so.
I mean,
One,
Having some
Yeah.
background in construction, haven't done
yeah. Well,
100,000,
I get it.
200,000 square foot roof projects before in my career. It's just like, oh my God, are you kidding
It's
me?
mind-blowing, yeah.
You know, for
I think
feasibility
if
study
it-
to figure out what you got, and, you know, I know it's a little bit deeper than simply make, but $250,000 just seems
I don't dis-
absurd to me
I don't
because
disagree,
it's a
however-
state requirement, and I get my hands. on it.
However, I will say, if, we'll know, right, the only way we do this is if MSBA agrees they're gonna take on the
Right.
project. At that point, I think we would gladly put forward 250,000 to potentially get 4 or 5 million, right? With their funding of half of the roof.
So we'll know that answer before we expend,
Yes.
is what you're telling me?
We'll know it before we expend, the only way this is expended is if MSBA accepts the
Says okay,
project.
okay.
Yeah.
We're putting this forward before we know that.
Yep.
Because the timeline is so tight. They have a
Yeah.
meeting on the 29th of October, I believe it is.
So this money may not get spent if
Exactly.
we don't get.
This is only if the
Exactly.
MSBA accepts the program into their,
Rapid repair.
rapid repair program, and then we would move forward, knowing that MSBA is gonna support the
It's a
project.
$6 million roof.
Yeah.
It's
At
not a
least.
small project,
At
so.
2022.
And- Yeah, and it's a 50% reimbursement, we think would be a 50% reimbursement, so it's a $3 million
Yeah, it's huge.
contribution from the state. That's what we would potentially lose if we didn't.
At least.
Yeah.
You know, Terry said the 6 million was in 2022, and Jim referenced last night, Holyoke High School, which is much larger than us, but, you know, a roof, just went through a roof, 13 million just for the
I
roof.
mean, when we first started talking about in capital, Terry, remember, that we were talking 5 million, and that was only a year ago, about a year and a half ago, so, you know,
Oh
the
my
longer we
God.
wait, it's gonna be.
Stop me if you
crazy.
know this already, but I've spoken to people who are upset that the roof is leaking after 25 years. And a lot of people still think it's a new high school.
Yeah, it's not.
This high school was one of the last projects built under the old system, which did not require an OPM and did not require the Mass Building Association, I think it was called, something like
MASBO.
that, did not have professional staff, people like yourself on the committee. So now they do, so their standards are much higher. in
But
terms
professional
of-
staff only looks to design standards. They're given a set of plans that's previously designed and engineered, and they follow that. Professional, you know, a construction manager isn't gonna say, well, you know, you really should be using PVC, not a
Yeah.
gravel roof.
Yeah.
It was the design, and I
But
don't
they
know what's
didn't
up
have
there.
that
Was
then,
the
is what
design
I'm
with the
saying.
gravel roof?
They
The-
didn't have
the
a
professional
person
engineers
who
or
represented the town at the time. It was really, so it was pretty much low bid. And when people look back, they feel like they didn't get what they should have gotten for that amount. So at this point, the MSBA is like, you're
My
gonna
point is,
get.
the design wasn't low bid, so it was designed with, I'm assuming it's a flat roof, it's probably rubber.
Yeah.
That's the way it was designed. So, yeah, everything goes out to bid, and the low bidder gets it. Your question is, was it the best roof at the time? I don't, you know, was PVC around then, and how much was it? And, you know, I don't have those answers, but anyway, it is what it is, and it's just.
Yeah, I don't see this as being so much of an option. I know last
No,
year.
no,
I-
I'm not trying to, I know it's
No, I
something we
like
gotta
the
do, it's just,
conversation. Yeah,
I know,
Last-
we get a lot
Yeah,
of
the amounts are,
requests
the
for
amounts are,
quotes.
a lot
Yeah.
of money.
It
and
is.
I know
of course
last
the,
year, when I was substituting for the nurse at the high school, the drop ceiling actually caved in during the storm. It was raining really heavy, and it was like, oh, hello.
yeah, we heard that from somebody that you would.
Yeah, I
when
sent
that
you a
happened.
picture, actually. I was
Yeah.
like, well, there goes the roof is leaking again.
Our
So
biggest problem
it's a
with
priority.
these kind of projects is prevailing wages.
Yeah, agreed, yeah,
It's just,
I got what you're saying.
you know, we need to get the state to, do,
Yeah.
it's just crazy
Yep,
that, you know, we gotta pay that ridiculous amount of money
Yeah.
on prevailing wages for state or municipal projects.
yeah.
But anyway, we're not gonna solve that here.
No, but we can complain about it.
So what number are we
listen.
on now?
Okay, so on the next
State
few
legislators
articles,
to do something.
these articles are mainly charter amendments, and Cody can maybe talk a little bit more about this, but we're not sure that the board is even gonna keep these on the warrant, so they're here as placeholders. The board will determine whether or not those stay on. but they're all basically charter amendments, either looking at changing head count on some of the committees, or if you want, I don't know if you want to go through every single one, Terry, or?
Well, I think it's basically increasing membership, right, on.
It is, it's from
Assessors.
Yeah,
three-member
Board of
boards
Health,
to five,
Board-
basically.
Yeah,
Assessors,
DPW
Health,
board. And
DPW.
ZBA, there's four.
Yep.
Because the thought right now is there are only three people. If one person's not there, then they have a lot of trouble making quorum, making decisions, so it's a pretty simple change that's being requested, and the select board is sponsoring this and is in favor of this, right? This is where it came from.
They've discussed it, they have not discussed whether they actually want to move forward with putting these on the warrant.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm unsure if they'll actually appear on the warrant. They've asked me to draft them,
And how
we've
about the
done that.
boards themselves? Have they been
We've got,
consulted?
we have requested feedback. We've heard from Board of Health. We've heard from the ZBA. I do not believe we've heard from the Board of Assessors yet.
And DPW, I think that DPW was in favor of this, because that came
Mm-hmm.
up before. Because we learned that with the last charter process, the importance of checking in with the departments.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So Cody, none of these charter amendments, there's quite a few, is there 6?
So there's a few here. The first few are regarding membership of the boards, like we said. The Article 12 is the Board of Appeals. However, our Board of Appeals is actually established by bylaw, not by charter. So 12 is actually a bylaw amendment that would expand the membership of the Board of Appeals. The other charter amendment is under our rules and regulations. Again, proposed, the board has not decided that they're going to go forward with this. Essentially, right now, if a department wants to change any of their rules and regulations, there's a 10-day notice period requirement. You post with the town clerk. It can then take effect 10 days after that posting period. The board, the select board's concern was that maybe that wasn't enough time for the public to know about this. So as drafted, this would basically allow only for rules and regulations to change 2 times a year, on January 1st or July 1st, and would require a 90-day notification period.
So those 6 articles, you're not 100% sure those are going forward? The selectmen have not
That is correct.
voted on them, okay?
They've asked me to draft them.
When is that
they're
happening, so?
What's that?
When is that happening, do you know?
The 29th, they need to decide what's going on the warrant, and they need to provide their
And
recommendations.
when do we have to decide? Will it be after that?
By
or-
the end of that week, yes.
And if you could just clarify one thing, because I don't want to get into any of those
Yeah.
details, but the zoning board of appeals going from 3 to 5, if that were to take place, I know now the law is it has to be a
Unanimous.
full complement in order for an appeal to pass. Will it still be a full complement if it's 5 members, or will it be a simple majority or a super
The
majority?
supermajority.
So
you're
4 out of the 5,
Correct.
when it's a 5-person board, and that's state law?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And are there any examples in terms of the rules and regs? Has there been a problem with people changing rules and not notifying people?
You know, I
or-
think this was primarily a concern from one of the select board members who brought it up. And I believe it was I don't know the history, I think this happened a little while ago. But I believe it had to do with a DPW, maybe a fee increase, or do you know exactly what it was, Gary?
Yeah, so one of the board members had some concern with just that. It was more notifying, getting this information out to the public, having a board change a rule or regulation and really not getting it out to the public, and then they're coming in, or they're applying online for permits, and they're looking at a fee when, in fact, they're looking at something else that is completely different. So I think this buttons that up a little bit and makes it a little bit more transparent, so that,
Puts a process in place, okay.
yeah.
So that's 9 through 13.
Yeah. 14 is, again, another charter change. This is nothing of substance as far as, changing the COA board. It just cleans things up that haven't been cleaned up in a long time. Some grammatical things, making it clear that this is an advisory group. That's how they've been acting, but the charter wasn't very clear in that they were an advisory group.
Yeah, that's important. I think those people appointed or, they're not elected, right?
They
So
are
they're-
appointed,
They're
yeah.
appointed by the select board?
Yes.
Okay. Article 15,
That's a cleanup for,
Yeah, so we hired a substance use program coordinator with, primarily with the opioid settlement funds. It's a non-union position. In our review, we noticed it was never added to the Schedule E, so we just need to update that. That was a position that started July 1st, and it was just missed in the
and this
last time
happened
we
with some of
updated it.
the other new positions that were added in the past few years, the quality control or somebody
dealing with weights
else.
and measures.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep, exactly.
okay.
So it's a cleanup.
Any questions on that? It's good that we're talking about it and asking questions, because it'll save some time later on when we all get together, okay?
Not the need for the position itself, it's how we're doing it is the opioid fund. There's probably an end date to that.
2035, Gary can speak to the funding portion, because that was prior to me.
So what the design was, a percentage of that was gonna come from the opioid funds itself and a portion of the budget, and that's gonna wean off after a certain amount of years. Yeah, it's 20, I forgot the date, 20, it's gonna be,
Either 2030,
Yeah.
I think it's 2035 that we get the funds through
Right.
from various settlements.
Yeah.
So some front-loaded, because there's with all these pharmaceutical companies, so some front-loaded the funds to us, and some are making annual payments to us, but the annual payments stop in, I believe, 2035, but we
Yeah.
can confirm it.
but the design is to have this eventually be supported by the budget, operational budget.
So it is, because the policy, unwritten or whatever, is for reoccurring expenses. You don't necessarily use one-time grant money for a reoccurring position, but we're doing that here. I mean, the grant money is still for a number of years, but you're setting it up with the understanding that that position will have to be taken over by the general fund.
There's a percentage over, when this was put together, the idea is each year over the next 10 years.
Yeah, 10%, then it
That
ratchets
will,
up to
we're
10,
gonna
20.
add percentage into the general fund budget, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Take the reliance off of the opioid funds, also extend the life of those because we're not using as much annually. But yeah, there is a plan in place for percentage-wise to increase every year into the general fund. Hence why I think the town felt comfortable utilizing one-time funds for this recurring expense.
And the target group for that? Is it all ages, every?
It is.
It is.
Yeah, so,
It's not-
so the,
It's
this,
not for teens or.
It's everyone. Yeah,
A
no.
certain segment of the population, it's for
they're
everyone.
servicing everyone. So she has been active in the schools. She's been active, over at the police station, at the police department, the CO, everywhere. There's no, specific age group.
So people feel like there will be a need for this, because I also thought this was a temporary position. I thought, just to put things in place, whether it's systems or training or whatever she was doing, but people are thinking that they need this.
Yeah, we had a group, if you remember, the opioid task.
The DART, the
Yeah,
DART
DART.
group, yeah.
And so when we met in those groups, it was the volunteers in that group that were pretty much doing all the legwork.
Right.
Putting on the program you see outside, reaching out to the community, and also engaging in the homelessness in town. So that was becoming almost a full-time job to do that. And the committee felt at the time it was appropriate to have a person come in just to focus on that, namely with the younger generation and moving up to, all age groups. That's where the group saw the need in
So
town.
who will be supervising this person?
They report to me.
So you would be the one to determine at some point if they didn't have enough to do and what would need to, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like every position and department, we continuously evaluate. If there comes a time, I hope there does come a time, that, we don't have a need for this position, then we would look to make some
Okay.
changes.
Thank you.
Yeah. You got this one? or-
You-
I can do it. This, you've probably seen this article before. So the town historically had run a community development block grant program for housing rehab. We got basically federal reimbursement for this program. We stopped that in 2010, I believe it was. And over the past few years, or the past 15 years, we sometimes will get payoffs. So if a housing rehab was funded under that program, and they decide they want to pay off prior to the 15-year forgiveness, that money actually has been able to, the town can keep those funds. So we have about $170,000 in that payoff account. What we've done over the past few years is we've appropriated that money from that payoff account to community development activities. And it allows us to, we've used it for matching grant funds. We've used it for consultants when we need to bring in technical support for things like grant applications. There could be some affordable housing initiatives, again, if we're looking for consultants. Anything really that has to do with community development, we've utilized it for. So I think the last one we did was in 2021, maybe, around there. I think we did $70,000, and we have about $20,000 left in there, but we've slowly been using it. And it's,
So we haven't seen this, so at some point it would be good to get some information to the rest of the committee, because this, I'm sure it's been existing, but it hasn't come to us, so.
Yeah, it has
I'd
been
like
a
to
while
know
since
the
this has
history
yeah,
is,
like I
yeah.
said, 21, I think is the
Yeah.
last time we did it for
Yeah.
around 70. So we can get a list of
So it's
the,
not the fund that CPC has to assist with? Okay.
so in 2010, we shifted and we started utilizing CPC funds for the program.
Okay.
Prior to that, we applied through the Community Development Block Grant, the federal program.
Okay.
And that was a little bit different. So the federal program allowed for over 15 years, it would actually be forgiven. The money was forgiven. So if you were in this program, saw it through for 15 years without selling your home or looking to pay it off, you were forgiven at 15 years. CPC is not like that. It does not get forgiven. It's just a deferred payment loan. So if it stays as basically a deed rider, and if someone wants to sell the home, then they pay that loan off effectively.
That's interesting. Any questions? Okay.
So the last article is elderly, to increase the elderly tax exemption. Right now, it's currently $500 based on your age at 70 and your income levels, and the Board of Assessors is recommending that it goes to $1,000.
Any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward.
What would be the overall impact to revenue,
Well,
making that change?
we can get that, we'd have to determine how many residents are getting it now. We did that analysis, we have that, I can send that to you, to see what it is. It's minimal.
We don't end up
amount.
actually taking the hit to it comes out of the overlay.
Right, it comes out of the overlay.
So we don't actually lose.
There's no tax,
Yeah, what we actually end up using for revenue does not decrease, because we have an overlay account that we take that out of.
It supplements the difference.
So the tax levy is set, right, and it's based on everyone paying the full valuation. And then we have things throughout the year, abatements, exemptions. So we have an account that we have to legally put aside through the Department of Revenue called the overlay. So any exemptions, the amount equal in exemptions basically is covered by that account.
So how much is the overlay account?
oh boy,
800,000?
yeah, I can get that. There's enough in there to cover it. Not only is the overlay used for that, but it's used for a larger, like, commercial properties, it's whatever the Board,
If we ended
it's
up
over the
in
Board of Assessors.
ATV, and we ended up having to settle, right, or we got less, we'd use that account. The DOR requires a 5-year average or 3?
Yeah,
It's a
5.
5-year average of your liabilities that they recommend that you put into that account annually. And then it can build up, because you just don't know. There's some, Walmart is a good example, where in communities, sometimes Walmart will just file for an abatement for no reason, because they have in-house counsel, and they're hired to do that, and if they're successful in some towns, they save money.
I remember at one point, was it Lowe's wasn't paying
Lowe's
their
was
taxes?
a
Yep.
case that we had, we won that case.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, well,
So,
people
I
gotta
can
do
get
what
you
they
the
gotta do.
balance on the overlay.
okay.
And that is
So
it, Terry.
that's the last article? Thank you. So we should be able to go through this. I'll draft what I think is the rationale, and then we can take votes when we meet again. Next on the agenda.
I just want to put, Yeah, it's a small group of articles this year, but I see potentially, hopefully not, the biggest debate is those charter amendments I can see. So hopefully we can get those sooner than later from the
Right.
select board and where they're going with those.
You will know as soon as I know.
Yeah,
I mean, on the
Especially on that, because
29th.
that became a big issue with the previous changes, as you remember. Not checking in with departments and departments being pretty furious right on the town meeting floor.
We reached out for feedback from, not only the professional staff, but also the board members themselves.
Great, great. Okay, let me find the other agenda. Town administrators update.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton. We've really just been working on the warrant. I was gonna mention the budget concerns with the enterprise funds, which we're, working on. We had the long-range capital planning workshops, we had one on community services, and then last night we had the one on, public schools. They weren't as well attended as we had hoped, however, they were recorded. Thought, nice presentation, particularly by Jim Kiley last night. So we encourage everyone to watch those, and reach out with questions. And, Capital meets on Tuesday. We're
Yes.
gonna hopefully bang all of that out in the one meeting, with all of those requests. And the board will meet on the 29th for their final review, approval of the warrant with their recommendations. We'll have you that, right afterwards, but I think if we can get a finance committee meeting planned for any other day that week, that probably puts us in the best spot. So the articles where we're unsure of at this point, you'll know what the final warrant will look like.
Yeah, and next week we meet, if we meet, well, we'll meet next week.
Yeah.
We can, if, hopefully we have the quorum, we can knock out the ones that we went through tonight, at least the ones.
I'll send something out to people to
Yeah.
tell them how important it is. Is that a joint meeting, the 29th?
No, we usually don't have
Okay.
joint meetings for the fall.
When is the joint meeting with the school committee?
The
That's-
29th.
That night?
That is the
Okay,
29th, yeah.
so not the finance committee,
No.
but, okay. Okay, any questions on town administrator update? Liaison reports, I can start with two reports. The long-term planning, like Cody said, the two workshops were held. When the committee met the last time and laid out what the process should look like, we agreed that having a town administrator open all the workshops, talking about what long-term planning is, and then having the people responsible present their specific projects was a good way to make them consistent and to remind people that the purpose of these workshops is to raise awareness for what might be coming down the line. At the same time, we are aware that there is a concern about the operating budget, and we need to keep working on that. And I think that one benefit that we have right now is we have a much improved school-town relationship. And those things will get discussed and worked out at some point. And then the school committee, I don't really have any updates on the school committee. We have to go over the liaison responsibilities at some point. I don't know when we'll do that, to figure out who's doing what, but, like, I think about DPW, Brian was the DPW liaison, I don't know if he still is, but we'll find out. Any other reports? Do you have, no?
Nothing new with CPC.
You don't even have a liaison job yet?
We're gonna, I think we talked about having, when the next member joins, whoever that is, to go through the liaison list. Just
Can
to-
you say that again?
Once we have the other ninth member join,
Yeah.
we'll go through that liaison list. We'll
Okay.
update that. Usually that's what we do at the beginning of the
Do we
year.
have somebody coming?
I haven't heard anything.
Oh,
Melissa has not
okay.
contacted me on.
Okay. No questions? Minutes.
Minutes for September
We
4th, we
can't-
don't have
yeah, we
enough.
can't vote,
yeah,
so
we
we'll
can't
have
vote.
to
I'll
do
put
that
those on the
next
next
time.
agenda.
And if you would add the topic for the one after the next one, when Janine's back about
Moving the room.
meeting space.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. Are there any other items that are good for the
No,
order
just, next meeting, which,
next week?
yeah, we're meeting next week.
Next week, yeah, next
Yeah.
Thursday.
And then so that'll be the 24th.
What date?
Thursday.
Thursday, the
25th would be
25th.
Thursday.
When would we wouldn't have time to meet. We had potentially booked the Tuesday in case we needed,
Well, if we meet the Thursday, we'll knock out the finance articles, including capital,
right?
because I'll have capital ready. And then if we need to meet,
Oh, Cody said we could be a little late. We could
Yeah,
do
if
it.
I would plan to, I think you should schedule a meeting for that week if
The
possible.
25th.
The week,
Then
so I think you definitely should meet on the 25th, which is your
Yeah.
Thursday. a week
And
from
either the
today.
30th and the 2nd.
the following week, 'cause
Yes, some other day, not the 29th, so a day after the 29th.
Yeah,
whether
either
it's
the 30th or the
1st,
2nd.
So
second.
I won't be able to do it, but, and the 30th we can't because we have the other workshop.
Yep.
See what I mean? So
I know,
I
this
think
is-
we should try Tuesday next week. I think we should.
The
since-
concern with that is that you're not gonna
we're
have
gonna have the
the
select
select
board's
board's
position.
final, they're not meeting until the 29th.
No, I know, but just to get votes started. You think
Well-
one meeting will be enough?
On the 25th?
Okay.
Yeah.
When you guys tell
Because
us,
there's
I mean,
only-
you see what the warrant looks like, if you
Okay.
take out the, I would hold off on, you could start thinking about it, but I would hold off on voting on the membership of for the charter changes and the rules and regs change, so that in itself takes out 5 articles, right?
Yeah.
So now you're down to 12.
And Buddy will be here.
Buddy
And you're
will-
gonna fill in the fifth, is it fifth and the sixth articles? with
Yeah,
the-
we hope to have the
We have
language.
draft
fulfilled.
language, we're
Yeah.
just waiting for
Yeah,
DOR
we're just
to give
waiting
us.
for
You take out all the charter stuff, there's only 11 articles.
Right.
We can do that
Okay,
on the 18th, I mean, at the 25th.
25th, okay.
And most of them all,
And
fine,
then
yeah.
hopefully figure out when we meet on the 25th, what date works best for everybody the following week.
Yeah, what we need.
Because we need to meet after the 29th.
Right, I'll send something out to remind people how important the meeting is on the 25th. All right, if there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
One second, thank you very much. Okay, everybody,